Welcome back to Death by Video. Hope you're ready for another slice of slasher mayhem, as this one comes at you from the turn of the decade that made the slasher movie great. 1980, eat your nuts off. What's going on? What the fuck happened to the lights? Ah! Oh fuck. Guess I'm reviewing Maniac then. Starting with a subtle nod to Getting Wood, the film starts as it means to go on, by dispatching its first victim by slicing one's throat and strangling another to death. It is very much a nod to the Italian serial killer films that came before it, but where this one differs in rather than actually having a mystery to unravel or a plot to solve, the point of the entire film is watching the serial killer do what he does best. We, the audience, are treated to a front row seat as he continues his insanity and maims women and attempts to justify his actions. It's a trip for a tortured mind, directed by Lustig and enabled by Savini's amazing special effects. This is still a slasher movie, but it's a more psychological take on why that killer exists, and the more disturbing his actions, the more we're left to question why.
Every time you go out, this kind of thing happens. This has got to stop. It's silly. And it's not getting us anywhere.
Naturally, each serial killer has a pattern to their killings, but this concerns itself more with what Frank does after he's dispatched his victims.
I won't ever let them take you away from me.
Joe Spinell, previously seen in the last horror film and the epically bad Star Crash, funnily enough with Marilyn Munro, who's also in this flick.
And I will be the master of the whole universe!
He comes off like a psychotic Ron Jeremy who's popped way too many Viagra and is attempting to cope with some unknown trauma. Apparently the scalps of nurses, photographers, models all seem to be fair game to his eyes. He takes his murderous rage out on them. He comes complete with a schizophrenic inner monologue that seems to chastise him and encourage him at the same time despite his actions.
You have to be careful. You have to listen to me. We can't live like this. I have to go out. And each time it's like this.
Especially when he's seeking comfort in the mannequins he's innocently personifying in his one-bedroom gaudy apartment, which is equally filled with creepy dolls and spare body parts. In a stark moment where he actually attempts to be normal, he approaches a photographer who's inadvertently taken a photograph of him in public, and for some reason she actually agrees to go on a date with him.
Frank, don't be silly. Listen, I'm the photographer, right?
Right.
So I should know what I'm doing, shouldn't I?
I know, but to me, things change. People die. But in a painting or a picture, they're yours forever.
And after the moment you hear the creepiest line anyone has ever uttered on a first date.
You're the most beautiful woman I've seen since my mom.
She continues to date him until she finally meets her. It culminates at the grave of Frank's mother as he finally tells Anna that he killed her friend and explains the abuse that he suffered at the hands of his own mum.
Rita knew.
This is me!
Rita knew.
Even his final moments are fucked up as the mannequins of his victims come alive and start ripping him apart in his flat. All the deaths are like beautifully realised through the creations of Savini, so subtle, so realistic, so bloody good. The direction works because every shot is so tightly framed, it just makes it seem so claustrophobic. except at those points where a wide shot is necessary to get a graphic representation of everything that's happening, such as the demise of Disco Boy Savini himself as his head is blown clean fucking off. I can even forgive the use of slow motion in that particular scene because it built it up to an almost inevitable death. Shotgun, windscreen, amazing. But when you get that sense of dread, the disturbing heavy breathing and Jay Chataway's score all mixed together, it just serves to make every death scene more interesting and more visceral and more disturbing than the last. His score just means that every half-open door or badly lit wardrobe could just be another place for the psychotic Frank to leap out and claim yet another victim. Maniac is set in New York City, just proving the point that even if you're surrounded by millions of people in the city that never sleeps, you are still as likely to be murdered. Fulci utilises it twice, once at the end of Zombie Flesh Eaters as zombies walk over Brooklyn Bridge, and in New York Ripper, which is pretty much based in the entire city, hence the name. You've even got Lustig himself actually returning to the city to put the fear into the innocent by corrupting the image of law enforcement in Maniac Cop.
These two Puerto Rican guys just trying to mug me.
Not until 1986 will you see another film so accurately portray a serial killer from within, such as Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, Manhunter, and a spate of other films that attempt to improve upon the formula that Maniac so gleefully makes up as it goes along.
Molly want a cracker?
Apart from a few budgetary restraints, which are skillfully handled by including a continuous news narrative and newspaper headlines to report Frank's actions, because without that you wouldn't know Frank is on a murderous rampage. And what the hell was with that embarrassing photo shoot montage that we were forced to watch? Seriously, I felt as uncomfortable watching that as Frank looked sitting in that room. It is a fantastically made film that explores the psyche of a serial killer, which doesn't need a clumsy pair of detectives explaining his motives all the way through, but it goes to prove that you can actually create a great serial killer film in the cheapest way possible. Grim, sadistic, and ultimately self-destructive, Frank Zito is the first fictional serial killer that could actually be waiting next door for you, just waiting to strike.
I'll be right back.
If you enjoyed the video, please hit like. If you want to hear more about horror, follow me on Twitter. And if you want to see more of these videos, please subscribe to me on YouTube by hitting the Death by Video logo. Groovy!